What is up, y'all? Welcome back to episode 83 of That's No Moon Pod. Now that a few days have gone by, I think it's time I drop my spoiler review of Deadpool and Wolverine. I got to see it Thursday night, so I was able to avoid a lot of the spoilers that kind of came out because of Comic Con on Friday and Saturday. And speaking of which, we got some pretty insane news regarding the upcoming Marvel projects, um, the Avengers movies. The Russo brothers are back, and Robert Downey Jr. is going to be playing Doctor Doom in Avengers Doomsday. So I'll definitely be getting into that as well. But just start off with Deadpool and Wolverine. I pretty much had a smile on my face throughout the whole movie. Right from the jump, you kind of just get the vibe and the tone that this movie's going to be from start to finish. I loved how they implemented that in sync bye 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 while this whole crazy action scenes going on with Deadpool and these TVA agents, seeing them pull up on Deadpool after he's digging up Logan's grave all these years later, trying to team up with them. And you see he's just nothing but a complete adamantium skeleton at this point, but he's able to use Logan's body parts, if you will, as weapons, just completely demolishing all these TVA agents in a crazy fashion while doing the whole in sync dance in the meantime. I just really liked how they set the tone off with this movie by throwing that scene in right away with that specific song as well. I'm hoping that they release that whole dance number or just at least the whole fight scene in general beforehand before the movies comes out on streaming services or whatever, because I just keep wanting to replay that whole entire scene over and over again, just the way Deadpool's dancing, he's hitting all the moves like just like NSYNC was. And I just love the way the movie started. And then you slowly start to figure out what this movie is going to be about, what exactly Deadpool is going through. He's trying to get recruited into the Avengers. He goes to Happy's office, trying to plead his case, kind of give him his resume and what he's done. And Happy's not about it. He's not willing to give Deadpool a spot in the Avengers. He feels like he still has some things to prove, I guess, and he's pretty insane, obviously. Meanwhile, we see that he's working at some Carfax used cars salesman dealership, whatever. And we come to find out later on, whenever we see that scene that we saw from the trailer, to where they're having like this birthday party for Deadpool, all of his friends. Um, we notice that him and Vanessa have split up for whatever reason from the last time that we saw them. And obviously Deadpool is not cool with that. He's not willing to accept it, but at the same time he is happy for her. Deadpool isn't he's not a bad guy. At the end of the day, he's probably one of the sweetest guys in terms of caring about the people that he loves. And this is whenever the whole movie starts to really kick into gear, is when these TVA agents pull up to his party. He thinks they're there for some sort of pegging or lap dance show for Deadpool, and they end up taking him to the TVA, and this is where we meet Paradox, and he's pretty much just going over the plan for what he wants Deadpool to do. Um, and we later find out what exactly is the plan with Paradox and how there's a lot more to the story than what exactly he's telling him. And Paradox pretty much tells Deadpool that your whole universe is going to end. Something to deal with this whole sacred timeline because when Logan died, everything pretty much got screwed up. And Deadpool obviously wants to feel like he has a purpose, that he's the hero that he thinks he is, and he really wants to prove himself. And so they're just having like this funny conversation back and forth. They give him his whole costume and get up, and he basically decides to take matters in his own hands. He grabs the TVA remote thing to help send him to different timelines and whatnot to help or go find the right Deadpool for the right job. And this is where he starts just kind of time warping himself into different timelines. And this is where we get to see like a whole bunch of different variants of Wolverine and Logan. We get the small, tiny comic book accurate version of Logan, which I thought was hilarious. Um, we get Patch, obviously, that we kind of saw from the trailer, but I thought it was just so cool to see in live action. And I think probably the biggest Wolverine probably pop that we got was from when Deadpool's walking up to Logan, and from the back it kind of looks like how Wolverine looked in X-Men Origins or Wolverine Origins, and uh, kind of find out, turns around and it's Henry Cavill, and they get into like this little scuffle or whatnot. And I just thought that was so hilarious to bring, of all people, Henry Cavill in to play this variant of Wolverine. I had heard that there was some sort of rumors going around that Henry Cavill was possibly casted in some sort of role in a Marvel project a while back, and people, of course, were speculating on who exactly it could be. I know a lot of people were saying Captain Britain, and I guess it turns out this is what he had been casted for. Could be down the line Henry Cavill gets some sort of bigger role in the MCU, but that remains to be seen. And then we finally get to the moment to where we get to the Logan that Deadpool decides to team up with, the one from the trailers, to where they're at this bar, Wolverine's drinking, and they don't want to keep serving him because in this universe, Logan pretty much just screwed everything up, got too drunk, decided to kill a bunch of people, and all the X-Men pay the ultimate price for it. And basically everyone in this whole timeline, this universe, hates Wolverine, and Wolverine obviously hates himself because he's pretty much just drinking himself to death. And Deadpool decides to bring this Wolverine back to the TVA, go through that whole deal. And then this is really when all the cameos really start to pop off. Um, they get warped into the whole void to where all the Fox universe characters are remain because after the whole Disney merger and whatnot, all these other characters who played certain superheroes and villains all kind of just roam around, and they're kind of living in this Mad Max kind of world, if you will. It's kind of real post apocalyptic and whatnot. and we finally get our first Deadpool versus Wolverine fight scene, and they're both kind of hyping it up. Both of them, they're just both talking smack to each other from across the way, and this movie just moved at such like a good pace. I feel like right from the jump, and then once the whole story starts to really start rolling, uh, it never felt like it dragged on. The movie, I think, is probably at least a good over 2 hours, I would say for sure. But you never felt like that. You never felt like any scenes were too slow or just kind of took you out of it. Um, but it was really cool just to see Deadpool and Wolverine finally have a fight scene in live action. And then the next cameo we got was definitely a surprise one for sure, to where these goons kind of pull up and they're threatening Deadpool and Wolverine. And there's a guy standing on a tower and he's all hooded up and he's got his whole face covered. And he drops down and then it shows that it's Chris Evans. Chris Evans making an appearance in the movie. And Deadpool, of course, getting all excited because he's thinking that they're about to get saved by Captain America. And Chris Evans he's getting ready to attack, and then Deadpool's like, he's gonna say it. And Chris Evans goes, flame on, and just turns into Johnny Storm. I could kind of see that coming a little bit once he was starting to get over excited about Chris Evans wanting to say it. And just the fact that they were fighting in this whole Fox universe post apocalyptic world, I was like, oh man, he's gonna turn into Johnny Storm. And sure enough, he did, which is really cool. It was a really cool moment. I think not a lot of people were expecting that. Um, and then they, of course, they get captured by these goons right after Sabretooth and Wolverine go at it. And the Sabretooth from the original X-Men movies. But Logan's able to take him out pretty easily, cuts off his head like he said he would. I wish they would have had like a little bit more of a fight together. I thought that would have been a cool moment, but nonetheless, they scoop up Deadpool, Logan, and I guess Johnny Storm, and they're having like this funny conversation while they're on the way to Cassandra Nova in her hideout, which is a giant Ant-Man suit skeleton remains or whatever. And this is pretty much where all these villains from the original X-Men are kind of posted up, kind of doing security detail, and just are the ones working for Cassandra Nova at this point. And Cassandra Nova, being this twin of Charles Xavier, who got killed when they were in the womb, she has like some pretty crazy stories with the whole Genosha deal in X-Men, the X-Men comics. And she's crazy powerful. So I was wondering how exactly they were going to use her as the villain in this movie. And she lets it be known her powers, what she can do. She's pretty much tossing Logan and Deadpool with ease just by the flick of her fingers. And she's able to kind of go into each person's mind by kind of like putting her hands through their heads and kind of like moving her fingers around while inside of their brains or whatnot. And she could pretty much just read their minds and their past, and they could see what they're seeing and what they're thinking. And this crazy moment to where Chris Evans, Deadpool, and Logan, they're all kind of talking to her. And then Deadpool decides to throw Chris Evans under the bus for saying certain things about Cassandra Nova on the way over to her lair. And they're just having this funny back and forth between each other, and then Cassandra just decides to completely just melt Johnny Storm, just Mortal Kombat fatality style, um, basically just killing him off right there and then. And then they somehow escape. They're able to jump on some sort of parachute glider type deal, and they get shot out way out of frame. And uh, they're roaming around, Deadpool and Logan, and we get to finally meet Dogpool, the ugly dog with the tongue sticking out, running towards Deadpool and Logan. And of course, Deadpool loves his dog, wants to keep it for his own. And we find out that Nice Pool, played by Ryan Reynolds, but just without the mask, he's got like this weird long ponytail style haircut, and he's pretty much our Deadpool, except just the extremely nice, polite version of him. Doesn't say anything bad or mean or nothing. And this kind of shoots off into to where we get really into the heart of this whole kind of story, because Deadpool and Logan, they're just having this conversation how Deadpool wants to save his friends, save his family and his universe, and he's trying to convince Logan to continue on this mission with him to help save his world and to possibly even save the world that this version of Wolverine couldn't save in his timeline. And they have this crazy fight scene while they're in this Honda Odyssey or whatever, and they both pass out and they get swooped up by some people, and they wake up in like this secret lair of some sort. And this is probably the, I would say probably the biggest cameos that we got in the movie for sure. This is where Wesley Snipes, Blade, Jennifer Garner, Elektra, and X-23 Daphne Keene pop out. And not only that, but we get a Channing Tatum as Gambit come out of nowhere. This was probably the craziest cameo for me, at least, because if you all know, Channing Tatum was trying to play Gambit for the longest time. I believe he even had a movie and some sort of pre-production going on way, way back. He's been wanting to play Gambit for so long, and he's just been trying to campaign for himself to play this character. And I just thought it was such a cool way to bring that to life, albeit he's doing like this crazy bad Louisiana accent, and he's completely decked out with the suits, and just seeing all these different characters come back for this specific role, I just thought it was so awesome, so cool just to finally see these nostalgic characters brought back to life in such a cool way. And meanwhile, Logan, he's getting drunk off Jim Beam in the background, drinking Gambit's liquor or whatnot. And of course, having Laura X-23, she obviously knows what happens to Logan in her universe, and kind of seeing this version of Wolverine kind of appear, she's obviously a little, I wouldn't say hesitant, but at the end of the day, she knows that Logan is, he's the man, no matter what. Doesn't matter what universe or what timeline it is. They kind of have like this cool moment while they're sitting by a campfire, and Logan's just drinking more liquor, and he feels like he's not the right guy for the job. And X-23 pretty much says as much as well, but she knows that even though he's never the right guy, at the same time, he is that guy, and he'll always do no matter what it takes. He'll always do the right thing, and they kind of come up with this plan to go attack Cassandra Nova back at her lair, and they all pull up in the van, and we get this cool, crazy action sequence between all of them. Each character, Blade, Elektra, Gambit, each had a moment of shine. I'm glad that they didn't just kind of pop in and pop out just for the sake of, you know, shock value or whatnot. They each had a pivotal moment in the story for sure, and they were kind of able to get the job done at the end of the day. Since Cassandra Nova has all this crazy telepathic ability, they need to get Juggernaut from the X-Men Fox universe. They need to get his helmet off to help put on Cassandra Nova's head. That way she's not able to kind of do all these crazy mind control tricks. And this is whenever we get some more backstory on what exactly kind of happened with Logan and his timeline. And they're kind of able to distract Cassandra Nova while X-23 chops Juggernaut's head off, throws his head in a backpack up to Deadpool. They're able to put it on her. And they decide to take it off because she somehow got the ring from Doctor Strange or some variant of him to be able to teleport, do that whole Marvel teleportation circle thingy that Wong does as well. And Deadpool and Wolverine jump back in, and that kind of sends them back to where the universe, to where Deadpool was originally at the beginning of the movie. And this was like probably one of the cooler fight scenes in a Marvel movie, I think, that we've gotten in a while, to where Deadpool and Wolverine team up because, for whatever reason, I'm assuming from Cassandra Nova, but they have to fight this whole army of other Deadpool variants, including Lady Deadpool. Um, there's this funny moment to where Nicepool comes in with Dogpool, and our Deadpool decides to use Nicepool as like a meat shield, and come to find out that Nicepool doesn't have the power to regenerate, and he's pretty much not made of adamantium or whatnot. He's just like a regular person, and they just kill him off in such a funny way. But one of the cooler moments that we for sure got was the moment to where Logan and Deadpool walk out ready to face the army of Deadpools, and we get Logan pulling back the famous Wolverine mask because he kind of had it like hood, like a hoodie version of it. But I thought it just looked so cool seeing him in the full on yellow outfit with the mask on. It didn't look corny or cheesy. It looked just right. I think they nailed it just perfectly with all the costume designs in this movie. And this crazy, bloody, gory fight scene ensues. And Cassandra Nova, meanwhile, back at the TVA, she's trying to destroy all these different timelines and whatnot. Paradox is obviously being dumb and trying to act like, none of this is his fault, but at the end of the day, it is pretty much. And Deadpool and Logan have to make this ultimate sacrifice because these different timelines are kind of merging together with these different types of antimatter and whatnot. And there's like just this bunch of energy that's being harnessed at the TVA. And Deadpool and Logan have to make a decision on which one of them is going to be able to stop all this from happening, because one of them pretty much has to go and sacrifice themselves to try to contain all this energy and all these different timelines from being destroyed. Cassandra Nova's using her power to kind of harness all these different timelines and energy. And Logan wants to go because he feels like it would kind of be his purpose to kind of redeem himself for what he did. And they both kind of agree on it. And then Logan gets switcherooed by Deadpool, and Deadpool kind of fakes him out, and he decides to go in there himself. But he's not able to kind of reach both anti gravity or different timeline things, whatever's going on. And Logan's able to bust back in there, and they both are able to kind of just hold hands and grab each end of the different energy timeline things or whatever. And that wipes out Cassandra Nova, is able to take her out. I do kind of wish that she kind of had a little bit more to do, just knowing how powerful she is in the comic books, especially. Um, Marvel is infamous for having a lackluster villain, and I kind of feel like this movie suffers from that as well. Even though she did do some cool stuff here and there, and definitely had a pivotal role in what goes down in the movie, I do feel like they kind of done a little bit more with her. Maybe cut back to her a couple more times throughout the movie to kind of really see her power and just kind of see how evil of a villain she could be. But I mean, other than that, I thought she did a good job. I guess after all this, we get back to kind of them having this party again, to the where we see Logan's chilling with them, X-23, and all these heroes that they saved pretty much from their timeline being destroyed and whatnot. And they're both all just kind of having this party. Deadpool's kind of having this moment again with Vanessa, trying to win her back. And yeah, I thought overall though the movie was just so well paced in terms of just Marvel comic book movie entertainment goes. This one is up there for sure with the best of them. I feel like I do kind of wish the story was a little bit, I wouldn't say emotional, but kind of like what I was saying with Cassandra Nova. I feel like if they were able to make her feel a little bit more menacing, and maybe we could have gotten a little bit more extra scenes between Deadpool and his friends, or maybe kind of cut back to them and seeing how their universe could possibly get wiped out or something. Um, I know there's some people that feel like um, the story wasn't as good as it could have been, and I can't necessarily disagree with that. But at the end of the day, I still feel like this movie was supposed to be chaotic, and when we're getting all these different characters and cameos all in one movie, it's a bit hard to kind of get like the best story necessarily. Um, No Way Home, Spider-Man No Way Home, I feel like did a little bit better job than this one in terms of implementing these different cameos while having that story element really hit home as well. But at the end of the day, this was easily, I would say, the best Marvel project since Guardians 3. Um, I'm not going to be able to rank where it lands in my Marvel movie rankings just yet. I definitely want to see it again. I think this movie, without a doubt, probably has some of the most replay value in terms of Marvel movies for sure. I think this is one that you could just always kind of go back to and have a good time with watching and just being entertained. Um, Seeing Hugh Jackman back as Wolverine, of course, is just never gets old. I mean, he's been playing it for most of my life, if I'm being honest. I think it's been 24 years since Hugh Jackman's been playing the character, which is insane to think about. Um, I was pretty much like 5 years old when the original X-Men movie came out, and just kind of seeing him grow as a character and just him being that consistent Wolverine for all of us as we've grown up together as well is just so cool to see that he still has so much love for the character. And obviously Ryan Reynolds having as much love for the Deadpool character, it really plays on screen. Just the chemistry that they have between one another, you could tell that they're actually real good friends in real life as well. um, I thought for the most part pretty much all the humor worked for me. Disney didn't Disneyfy the movie at all. It was raunchy as ever. It was funny as ever. The profanity, uh, everything about it is what you would want from a Deadpool and Wolverine movie. And at the end of the day, that's really all I could ask for. Um, I can't wait to see it again. If y'all seen it, let me know what y'all thought. Do you think it could have been better? Do you think some of the cameos were hit or miss, or do you think it was just a little bit too much for the shock value? Um, I will say that I was expecting more of the original X Men characters to pop up somehow, whether it be Halle Berry, Storm, or Cyclops, or probably even Jean Grey at least, or something. I was even expecting James McAvoy, Professor Xavier, and Michael Fassbender, Magneto. I was expecting a lot more cameos, if I'm being honest, but I'm not going to complain with what we got. We did get Pyro from the original X Men, Juggernaut, um, Sabretooth. We got quite a bit in there. And uh, yeah, again, I just really love the movie. Really glad I was able to see it before all the spoilers got leaked from Comic Con. And speaking of which, I'll just get right into it. Comic Con was this past weekend, and on Saturday, the news dropped that the Russo brothers are officially coming back to direct two Avengers movies. There have been talks about Sean Levy, the director for Deadpool and Wolverine, possibly helming the projects, but then these reports really started to catch some steam of that he wasn't interested, and there was a possibility that the Russo brothers were going to be able to return. And just for them to finally confirm all that, I think just gets the people that much more excited. We're getting Secret Wars, Avengers Secret Wars, and the one that everyone's talking about, we're getting Avengers Doomsday. So Doctor Doom gonna be the main villain, pretty much taking the place of King the Conqueror, because originally, before all the Jonathan Majors drama, was supposed to be the whole Kang Dynasty Avengers movie, but they're pretty much just scrapping all that completely. No more Kang. Probably get some sort of variant of him down the line, I'm assuming, but Avengers Doomsday by the Russo brothers, and Doomsday is being played by Robert Downey Jr. And right when this news dropped, it dropped pretty late during the night as well. I remember um, seeing what time it was exactly, and it was a pretty late news drop for especially something like this to be going on. And seeing RDJ on stage wearing the Doom mask, he's wearing the whole green robe and whatnot, and he steps out on stage, takes off the mask in front of the crowd at Comic Con, and of course everyone goes crazy. And I'm still trying to process on how I feel about the whole casting of RDJ playing Doctor Doom. I feel like I'm leaning more towards not being a fan of it, if I'm being honest. Um, and it's not because I don't think he'll do a good job. I mean, he's Robert Downey Jr. is one of the better actors working in the biz right now, and I think just the fact that they did decide to go in this direction and to cast Robert Downey as Doctor Doom, I don't think they don't have a plan. I feel like Kevin Feige and Marvel and the Russo brothers and everyone involved in making these movies, they obviously have some sort of plan, and they felt like casting Robert Downey Jr. as Doctor Doom would not only get people talking, get people excited and want to go see the movie, but I feel like they're going to figure out some sort of way to be able to implement him and kind of hopefully not taint how we feel about Iron Man and losing him in Endgame. Kind of like how Deadpool and Wolverine kind of handled the whole death of Logan. But yeah, I don't know, dude. I feel like there was just better options in terms of someone who hasn't played such a legacy character like Iron Man before, and bringing someone in like, I know there was talks of Cillian Murphy. There was a lot of talks about Cillian Murphy, matter of fact, which I thought he would have done a good job as well if you would have brought him in. I think that would have been just as good of a choice. High caliber actor, well known actor, someone who's kind of at the top of his game right now with winning an Oscar as well as Robert Downey. But I mean, I had been hoping for Henry Cavill to step in and play Doctor Doom, because in my mind, I always just kind of feel like Doctor Doom is like this bigger guy. RDJ is not a big dude, and I'm not saying he has to be like Superman, Batman sized, but I feel like he kind of has to have like this larger than life presence about him, both physically and just the character and how he's portrayed. And yeah, I feel like it's gonna confuse a lot of people because obviously we all know and love him as Iron Man, and seeing him play the villain is just gonna be jarring. I feel like, but again, they gotta have a plan. They gotta have a lot of confidence to want to be able to do this in the first place. So I'm hoping for the best. I'm still super excited. Um, they brought out the whole Fantastic Four crew out there as well, Pedro Pascal, um, and I guess it's gonna be called Fantastic Four First Steps, which is kind of like a weird title. I feel like, but um, I'm still super excited for Fantastic Four. Um, Even more excited now that the Russo brothers are attached to the next Avengers movies. Um, I was afraid that they were gonna get someone in that may not be able to accomplish what came before it. And I think even though it is a little bit of a safe bet, kind of them playing it safe by bringing the Russo brothers back, I just feel like let them continue to cook. They've done it before multiple times. So I feel good about them returning and helming the projects once again. But let me know what y'all think of Robert Downey being Doctor Doom, because I still honestly, I don't know how I feel about all that. But leave a comment down below, like, comment, subscribe, and until next week, y'all stay safe, and I'll catch y'all on the flip. Peace.